Trump says he's not backing down on tariffs as global markets plunge. The SAR government says it'll stay alert amid the current volatility in financial markets. And the Civil Aviation Department bans portable charging devices from airplanes' overhead compartments. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned foreign governments they would have to pay a lot of money to lift sweeping tariffs, referring to the duties as medicine. This as carnage continued today across global financial markets. Daniel Rao reports.
Asian shares nosedived on Monday after the meltdown on Wall Street last Friday over U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff hikes and the resulting backlash from Beijing. The Shanghai Composite Index lost 8.4%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index plunged 12.4%. Tokyo's Nikkei 225 Index lost nearly 8% shortly after the market opened. Futures trading for the benchmark was briefly suspended. It closed down 7.8%. Asia is especially dependent on exports, and a large share go to the United States. Meanwhile, speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, U.S. President Donald Trump indicated he was not concerned about losses linked to his tariffs.
I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. We will be taking in over $1 trillion over the next short period of time with the tariffs that I've already instituted. They're already in place. Now, what's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger.
Trump said he had spoken to leaders from Europe and Asia over the weekend who hoped to convince him to lower tariffs as high as 50% due to take effect this week. Trump said they're coming to the table, they want to talk, but there's no talk unless they pay us a lot of money on a yearly basis. Investors and political leaders have struggled to determine whether Trump's tariffs are part of a permanent new regime or a negotiating tactic to win concessions from other countries. Trump's top economic advisors have sought to portray the tariffs as a savvy repositioning of the US and the global trade order. In an interview on NBC News' Meet the Press program, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said more than 50 nations have now started negotiations with the U.S. It's now estimate the tariffs will cause the U.S.'s full-year gross domestic product to decline by 0.3%, down from an earlier estimate of 1.3% growth. Wall Street analysts have set the risk of global recession between 60 and 45%. Dan Rao, TVB News.
Back locally, the government said it would stay alert amid the current volatility in global financial markets. Authorities reminded people to make suitable risk assessments when investing. Mimo Singhai reports.
World stock markets plunged on Monday. Apart from stockholders, those who have invested in the MPF's equity fund have also been affected. An MPF consultant company says the total value of the equity fund has gone down by at least 6% today. A financial analyst said employees should not change their equity fund combination because of the U.S. tariff measures.
MPF is not for speculation. So MPF is for something that a very long-time investment. Can you find any short-term speculator who can make a lot of money? No, very little.
Speaking to the media, Financial Secretary Paul Chan said the government will stay alert amid the instability in global financial markets. Hong Kong does not impose levies on most imported goods because of its status of being a free port. However, under Trump's reciprocal tariffs, Hong Kong-made products are also targeted, receiving the same amount of tax as the mainland, 54%. In retaliation, many authorities have decided to impose 34% tariffs on all imports from the U.S. An economist said it is not necessary for the SAR to adopt the same retaliatory measures as the mainland due to the principle of one country, two systems. The government stressed Hong Kong will maintain its status as a free port. Mums 9, TVB News.
The Civil Aviation Department has announced that starting today, passengers are banned from using portable charging devices or placing such devices in the overhead compartment while traveling on airliners. Timothy Lee tells us more.
New signs notifying passengers on the updated restrictions regarding the use of charging devices on planes could be seen across the departure hall of Hong Kong International Airport. Those who do carry such items on board are now required to place them beneath their seats or in the seat pockets. With the new measure coming into force starting today, some airline staff were seen explaining the policy to passengers. This man agreed with the measure's implementation after witnessing several accidents related to the use of charging devices on planes in recent months. While this man said he was used to storing his charger in the overhead compartment, but noted he would adjust to the necessary changes. This after the Civil Aviation Department introduced the measure after a Hong Kong Airlines flight returning to the city from Hangzhou last month experienced a mid-flight fire caused by a charging device in the overhead compartment. As residents are gradually embracing the rising trend of automated suitcases powered by lithium batteries in recent years, a number of airlines stressed those who wish to check in the self-moving luggage must first remove their batteries and then put them in their hand baggage. Meanwhile, passengers traveling with carry-on smart suitcases must turn off their electronic functions while flying. The suitcases must also not be charged mid-flight. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The airport authority has appointed Vivian Chung as its new chief executive officer. She begins the role today. The board of the airport authority endorsed Chung's appointment at the end of last month. Her appointment was further approved by Chief Executive John Lee. Chung's tenure as CEO was set to last for a period of 3 years. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chan welcomed the decision. She expressed hope Chung would strengthen Hong Kong International Airport's position on the global stage by taking advantage of the 3-runway system. As soon as tomorrow, South Korea's cabinet should finalize the date of June 3rd for a presidential election. A national holiday has to be called for polling day. Last week, impeachment confirmation saw Yoon Suk-yeol thrown out of the presidential office. The law requires a new election within 60 days. Yoon's impeachment was upheld by the Constitutional Court. 8 judges decided Yoon violated the Constitution with his declaration of martial law last year. An official at the National Election Commission would not confirm June 3rd as Election Day, saying everyone must wait until acting President Han Duck-soo announces it. The death toll from the Myanmar earthquake has jumped to at least 3,564. Heavy rain hampered salvage efforts over the last 24 hours. Some makeshift tents used by aid agencies were blown over or flooded. Some searches had to be stopped because electrical equipment used to detect signs of life wouldn't work. The latest pictures from the capital, Naypyidaw, show dry but cloudy and gray skies. Damp conditions are increasing fears of the spread of diseases such as cholera. People were still clearing rubble today and elsewhere. Buildings lean precariously, with thousands without power and access to clean water. Several hundred are still missing. The death toll is expected to rise. According to 2 sources familiar with the matter, a deal to spin off the U.S. assets of TikTok has been put on hold. On Friday, Trump extended a deadline for ByteDance to sell U.S. assets of the popular short video app to a non-Chinese buyer by 75 days. If ByteDance fails to do so, TikTok will face a U.S. ban that was supposed to have taken effect in January under a 2024 law. The deal was almost agreed last week and would have spun off TikTok's U.S. operations into a new company based in the U.S. and majority owned and operated by American investors. ByteDance would hold a position of less than 20%. A source says the deal had been approved by existing investors, new investors, ByteDance, and the U.S. government. However, ByteDance said differences remained over the deal. A major stumbling block to any deal for TikTok's U.S. business is Chinese government approval. China has not made a public commitment to allow a sale. U.S. President Trump suggested tariff relief may help push through the sale.
The report is that we had a deal pretty much with TikTok. Not a deal, but pretty close. And then China changed the deal because of tariffs. If I gave a little cut in tariffs, they'd approve that deal in 15 minutes, which shows you the power of tariffs, right?
Still ahead, more than 30 people killed in new Israeli attacks on Gaza. In France, Marine Le Pen says she'll peacefully fight her 5-year ban from running for office. And Russian products tapping the Hong Kong market. Welcome back. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting U.S. President Donald Trump later today. Talks on restarting the peace process in Gaza is on the agenda. Trump had vowed to stop the war, although on his way to the meeting, he wasn't outlining any new demands. Israel has come under renewed criticism after more than 30 people were killed in Gaza in the latest attacks. There is further outrage over the deaths of aid workers and journalists. David Garrett reports.
We're going to talk about trade, and we're going to talk about the obvious subject. You know what the obvious subject is?
Do you have any news for us on the obvious subject?
I'm trying to do trade just to keep it down. No, look, there's a lot of things going on with the Middle East right now that have to be silenced. You know, we had no problem with the Middle East. Everything was done. We had no problem with Iran. We had no problem with anybody. And then you had October 7th. And that was all because Iran, as you know, was not giving money to anybody because they had no money. Now they have a lot of money. So we'll see what happens.
This is what Trump wants to stop. Glass smashing and debris heard falling as people run for cover. This is an attack by Israel in the proximity of Al-Aqsa Hospital. Israel says Hamas use hospitals as human shields. From a distance, smoke could be seen rising from alongside the medical facility. Israel ordered an evacuation of parts of Deir al-Balah, where the hospital is located. Meanwhile, the Israeli government has been widely criticised for targeting media during their war with Hamas. 2 Palestinians were killed, 1 a journalist, burnt alive in front of others after an attack on a media compound. A study in the US found last week more than 200 media workers have been killed in Gaza since the start of the war. This came after a weekend in which the Israeli military admitted mistakes and false statements over an attack that killed 15 medics and aid workers. Video from the scene showed the Red Crescent vehicles had lights on and were clearly marked, forcing Israel to backtrack on a previous justification for opening fire. The IDF had said they'd fired because the convoy was approaching suspiciously. David Garrett, TVB News.
French far-right leader Marine Le Pen said she would peacefully fight her 5-year ban from running for office and draw inspiration from American civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. Earlier, a court found Le Pen guilty of embezzling European Parliament funds to pay party staff. This as thousands of people rallied in Paris in support of her on Sunday. Tracy Furness has more.
A sea of French flags at a rally in support of Marine Le Pen in Paris Sunday.
Merci.
Jordan Bardella, president of Le Pen's National Rally Party, addressed the crowd. He said the unjust and scandalous court decision pronounced against Marine, aimed at eliminating her from the presidential race, is above all a direct attack against democracy, a wound for millions of French patriots. A court convicted Le Pen of embezzling public funds and banned her from running for office for 5 years. She was also sentenced to 4 years in prison, including 2 under house arrest and 2 suspended, effectively immediately. But the far-right politician stood unshaken before a sea of French waving flags in Paris Sunday, saying, "For 30 years I have fought against injustice and I will continue to fight." The thousands of supporters were gathered at Place Vauban near the tomb of Napoleon for what was billed as a protest, but observers said it had all the markings of a campaign rally, many chanting Marine Présidente, and they won't steal 2027 from us. Anti-far right activists were also out in force. This banner reads "Emergency Revolution," and this one is a banner against fascism.
Excusez-moi, elle a quand même détourné de l'argent.
This supporter of the far-left Unbowed Party said, "Sorry, but she embezzled money from the French people, and so today she must own the actions that she committed." Former French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal, who leads the Renaissance Party in the National Assembly, denounced Le Pen's defiance of her guilty verdict for embezzling public funds. Speaking during a meeting of his centre-right party in Paris suburb Saint-Denis, he said, "It's not up to us to say if the judgment rendered to Le Pen is good or bad. It is up to us to always hear the facts. Well, the facts are clear. Le Pen and the National Rally were found guilty after 10 years of investigation." Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Back in Hong Kong, the city's first electric ferry today conducted its second trial operation. Xing Mingzhu, 39, has received a full subsidy under a government-funded program. It provides ferry services between North Point and Hung Hom, as well as between North Point and Kowloon City. Mimo Singai reports.
The electric Xing Mingzhu 39 docked at the North Point ferry pier this morning. Operated by the Sun Ferry, the blue and white vessel was ready to serve its first group of passengers heading to Hong Kong, one of the 4 voyages the vessel will undertake on the day. Some passengers went to the upper deck to enjoy the scenery. This man is not a frequent ferry rider. He boarded the boat to experience the new eco-friendly vessel. He said the ferry produced less noise than the traditional ones. A tourist said she liked the idea of being on an electric ferry.
I felt a bit safer, I guess.
And why is that? Why do you think it's safer?
It's more newer and has like more newer technology and stuff.
Built with carbon fiber composites, the Chinese-made ferry can accommodate 400 people. It weighs 70% less than normal vessels, which means higher energy efficiency compared with the other boats being used on the same ferry routes. Meanwhile, Xing Mingzhu 39 is equipped with bicycle racks and has parking space for wheelchairs. Authorities earlier said Xing Mingzhu 39 will enhance its service to 3 days a week, depending on the trial operation. The government allocated a total of $350 million to subsidize Sun Ferry and Fortune Ferry to run 4 electric vessels. The second electric ferry, Hong Kong Water Taxi 28, will arrive in the city next month. Its operator, Fortune Ferry, will conduct non-passenger trials in the second quarter of the year. Mimo 9, TVB News.
As ties between China and Russia grow stronger, a store selling Russian products recently opened in Hong Kong. Store owners believe they can compete effectively in this market, especially with an increasing number of Russians traveling or relocating to the city. Sakura Ip spoke with some of these newcomers.
After living in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia and Thailand, Russian artist Svetlana has now settled in Hong Kong for nearly 6 months, and opportunities are beginning to unfold. She is collaborating with various galleries, with her works being exhibited in Japan and South Korea.
Hong Kong, one of the best cities because of creative environment, creative people, and a lot of opportunity for artists. If compared with Russia and other countries I live, Hong Kong is the best place for me to reach art collectors, art lovers from other countries. And it's good to expand my career here.
According to the Russian consulate in Hong Kong, there are roughly 2,000 Russians residing in the city, and Hong Kong Tourism Board figures shows that over 11,000 Russian travelers visited the city in February. That's a 10% increase compared to the same period last year.
The ties between Hong Kong and Russia in trade have been growing stronger. According to government's figure, Russia's trade turnover with SAR was $5.8 billion in 2023, showing a growth of around 50% compared to 2022.
In mid-March, stores selling Russian goods opened in Mongkok, featuring popular items such as caviar, one of the locals' favorite, and chocolate, which quickly sold out. One returning customer was a student. In addition to traditional foods, some unique health products have surprised Hong Kong customers, including a stomach supplement derived from large moths and a liver supplement containing bear bile. Mr. Laird, the store owner, reported that sales have exceeded expectations, with prices around 30% lower than products from other brands. Unique items like bear products, sea buckthorn, and birch tree extracts have been particularly well received. The store owner is planning to introduce more products featuring sea buckthorn and birch tree extract, while also considering opening more branches in the future. Zachary, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. See you then.